Welcome to the open house. As most of you know, or many of you probably know, this is the fifth open house we've had in this series. My name is Michael Moyes. I'm an advisor here for Berklee Music, the online division of the Berklee College of Music. And we're lucky to have Brad Hatfield back again for a little encore performance. Did an open house with him about a month ago now, I think. Brad is an Emmy Award-winning composer. He's also an experienced music supervisor. He's, very importantly for this open house, he's a great songwriter and also a professor, which is also very important. You may have heard some of his music on movies such as Analyze This, The Breakup, Iron Man 2, Borat, as well as some TV shows such as 6 Feet Under, ER, Saturday Night Live, let's see, The Sopranos.
Sure.
And pretty importantly, he's the co-composer on the hit series on FX, Rescue Me. He's also had some pilots for some major networks recently. And I neglected to mention this last time, but it's really cool for me since I'm a pianist. He is a pianist for the Boston Pops, and has just played with the band Boston in the Pops, and is getting ready to do some work with Kenny Loggins. And also importantly, he teaches our Songwriting for Film and TV class, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. He also teaches our music publishing class.
Music supervision.
Sorry,
That's
music
all right.
Supervision class.
There's a lot of publishing in there.
There is, definitely. So we're going to start off with a couple questions. It's going to be kind of a Q&A. It's going to be about 20 minutes of Q&A between Brad and myself. He's going to talk a lot about songwriting for film and TV, and then we're also going to be fielding a lot of questions from you guys for the last 10 minutes or so. So keep those questions coming. I've got this fancy little gadget here, and I'll be able to give those to Brad. So Brad, let's start off with a question. What is the difference between being an artist and writing songs for film and TV?
Right. This is the one thing that there's a little division here. The artist-songwriter that creates music just because they're making an EP or they're making a CD, they support their live performances with the songs that they write. They're writing from the muses that come through them, and they have their sound. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's great. But how it pertains to the placement of music into film and television, where you're sharing space with dialogue, plot, storyline, or era, location, many things that come into play, means that maybe that song you wrote, which is a great song, but has nothing to do with this scene. So songwriting for merging with these other medias, whether it be film or TV or video games or whatever it might be, advertising, relies on a lot of craft and taking direction from other folks that say, I need it to do this. I need it to sound like that. You hate those, but that's often what we get. We call those smells alikes. So they basically have a piece of music that they can't afford and they need something else. They need a songwriter that has that skill, and composers are composers, but songwriters, it's a different thing. You're really working with forms, you're working with recognizable melodies and sections of songs, and the development of those ideas, or not overdeveloping them and maintaining a vibe. So the real difference is, if you write something that's the perfect song for Grey's Anatomy, and you get plucked out of all the songs that are out there, they find you, the music supervisor finds you, or the producer hears it, or the director hears it while they're driving in their car. Get me that song. That's one way of getting in. But the person that can also adjust their writing and say, hey, there's a lot of shows that need this kind of music, or there are a lot of films being made where they go back in time, so we need to be able to write in these older styles. And to be able to pull that off with craft is the big difference. So there you're sort of adjusting your writing to make it work, to picture. So that's really the big difference. The throwing the dart and hoping that your song gets picked versus what do you need? I'll write that and we'll produce it and we'll make it work. So there is a difference between those two things. Nothing wrong with either approach. The second approach really requires some craft, and that's what these courses are so good about teaching, whether you're in the college in the brick and mortar or whether you're in the online courses or studying privately. But if you learn the craft to be able to make those adjustments, then you can be a participant in this world where you're combining song with picture, storyline, actors, tastes in music, and all these other parts.
So if a songwriter does have a goal to get something placed in Grey's Anatomy or something like
Right.
that, if Alex is listening
Yes.
or anybody else, what are some ways to go about or increasing your success to get those placements?
Right, right. You definitely have to have some sort of a bridge. Clearly, these music supervisors, when you referenced Alex Patsavas, who is a music supervisor for Grey's Anatomy, but also Mad Men and the whole Twilight series of movies, and many other things. Also Rescue Me. So she does receive things. What gets to the top of the pile? If she knows somebody's, if you recognize that name, she's more likely to have one, she'll listen, or somebody in her staff will listen. That's still a little bit random, but getting the introduction or having your music represented by a publisher that has administrative control over your music, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about that later. But getting introduced by somebody that they already know, a known player as it were. So whether you're with a music library or song catalog and brought in that way, once again we'll get into more of those details. Whether you have a song plugger or broker that is going to take a part of the licensing fee if it gets used because they're connected to those producers or those music supervisors or directors or whoever's in charge, the showrunners, and they can get the music in there. So there is the random thing. The tune that I have in Iron Man 2 was a total random pluck because I have stuff up in iTunes. Put your music out there, folks. Use CD Baby, TuneCore, whatever you can do to get your music out there. And that at least gets you on that random plucking thing, or obviously college radio or commercial radio if you can get there. So getting visible that way increases those kinds of chances. But the reality is, it is sort of who you know and how you can move through it. So aligning yourself with somebody who's already aligned with the people that you want to get to is a great way of doing it.
You mentioned music libraries a little bit, and it's something that's important to me as a composer. And this is something that I kind of dance around with in my head sometimes. How important is it for a songwriter to retain their publishing rights?
Right, right. Well, just to clarify what we're talking about here, there are organizations, and I would use it more as like a third-party publisher. They're sort of a detached publisher. They are somebody that's connected. In a perfect world, they're connected. What they allow to have happen is songwriters that have produced their music. It has to be fully produced, has to be ready to go. There are some services that will say, hey, you're close, tweak this and this and this and try again. Most of them just want to hear it finished. But these folks that will have a publishing company for both or for all of the PROs, I'll use domestic U.S. I mean, clearly this pertains to wherever we are in the world, but I'll use domestic U.S. as an example. We have 3 PROs, BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. And they'll have publishing arms that represent those 3 performing rights organizations. Songwriter that pushes their music and wants to get their music into film and TV really needs to be associated with one of those PROs so they'll earn royalties. It also means that the folks that run the song catalogs and the music libraries will make royalties too if they own the publishing. So to get back to your question, should the songwriter hang on to their publishing? Well, here's the deal. When you first write a piece of music, you own everything. You own the right to assign that publishing to whoever you want to. You can assign those rights exclusively to somebody and say, hey, you're my publisher, I trust you. Go out and push my music. I keep my writer's share. If it gets broadcast, I make royalties for the writer, and if it gets broadcast or performed in any way, the publisher is going to make those performance royalties. If that publisher is exclusive, you would hope that they have a lot of incentive to get things placed because they'll make money and you'll make money. Song catalogs and music libraries will take in music from a lot of folks. They'll use a strategy that allows them to let you keep your original title. So if it's Michael's Opus, it's your original title. And your publishing is Michael Publishing. So you own all that. You work with a song catalog or a music library. They might say, let's retitle it to Pump Audio Michael's Opus. And to use one of the song catalogs or music libraries as an example, Pump Audio. So they attach their name to the front of this. now that they've changed the title of the song, it's still the same piece of music. They can now attach publishing to that song title. So they've got more incentive to get this thing placed because they'll make money, performance royalties, when it does get placed. They're also highly visible. They are a one-stop shopping area where you can go and license this music. So here you've non-exclusively given them the publishing rights. You can always blow that deal off, and some people do. Let's say a big label or somebody takes you on exclusively. You can go back to Pump Audio and say, deal's over, I got picked up, I don't want to be branded in this way anymore.
Right.
And they'll honor that and they'll pull that off. Anything that's out there actively working for you will still continue to make money. So your question was, should you hold your publishing? You essentially do all the time, and you can grant non-exclusively publishing rights to other folks. And you can also say, depending on the contract you signed, it might be 3 months, it might be a year, it might be 30 days that you can say, that deal's over, I want those rights back. I will say for the beginning songwriter that's trying to get out there, going to music libraries and song catalogs, checking out what's in there, and am I comparable? Are my songs, are my production levels up with these other folks? Can I really compete? That's a real eye-opener. And if you can't compete, submit to the library. And if you're accepted and you get onto that digital shelf, you're out there. If you get placed, now you got some street cred. So I had my song in this, I had my song in that, and now that helps sell yourself to maybe an exclusive publisher. My big recommendation is eventually work with a publisher that really represents you in a perfect world, exclusively, at least in this arena of publishing, of placement. And that way you'll have somebody that's really working for you, that really knows your music, and that can also get you maybe collaborating with their other writers if your strength is in one area. So.
Okay. I want to go on a slight tangent here because this is something that students ask about a lot, and you were mentioning it earlier in our last open house as well, that you have students with all different kinds of backgrounds and levels, and all of that might not be in production, mixing, mastering, everything like that. How important is it to be tech savvy as a songwriter?
Right. If you're going to do this alone, and I don't recommend that you do it alone, but if you are going to do it, you really have to be able to do all those things. People are not looking for demos. They're looking for done. I want to be able to put this on the air next week. We have very compressed time frames in network television, especially if it's an episode type deal. You got 10 days. Find the music, get it in there, off you go. If you know, if you're connected enough to the show and you know that certain things are coming up and they need certain kinds of music, you might have more lead time if you're writing something new. The bottom line is we get fire drills that I need it the next day, and we will take that on. But if you can't really do it yourself, please, please, please collaborate. So in answer to your question, if you can do it by yourself, then you have to be uber tech savvy. You have to have your mixing together, mastering to a degree. Bottom line is, at least with broadcast, they squeeze the heck out of everything anyway. They might futz it, meaning make it sound like it's coming out of a car radio or an iPod or something. So a lot of the things that you do may be, off the table because they're going to do some really horrible things to it to make it work for the scene. But if you can't do that stuff, and maybe this is where we're going with this, if you can't do it all, find somebody that can help you do it. What we do in our online class that I teach in the Songwriting for Film and TV course is just prior to midway through the course, we start collaborating. First, just as a typical collaboration, writers, people that write melodies and do chord structures really well but are not so great with the lyrics, working with people that are lyric machines, cranking them out. Here they go, what's the song about? Off we go. They understand form, they understand story, they understand how to set up a hook. They can react to your chord progression. They can be inspired by your melodies, or they can strip out some of the melodies and go, we got to fix that because for this line to work, we got to change. So there you have a really collaborative thing. So we do that in our online class, and it's just awesome because people that when they come into the class, and some people submit their first little things, and you hear what they're doing, and people are like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that, and they're like nervous. But then they'll submit something else that maybe it's just great set of lyrics. Yet you might have somebody else that's sort of maybe in the middle with both of those things, but their production and their mixing and mastering is awesome. Mm-hmm. So now we've got all the elements of what could be a real production team, and that's what we assemble in the course. And that's what I do in real life. You just absolutely have to find other folks. There's no excuse for not doing it. And with the Berklee Network, as you'll see at the end of the broadcast here, how we get people involved, and you meet other folks, and you can see the mutual gains by collaborating with other folks. And once, when you would never pitch to something, now you know the killing guitar player. They can do the uber metal solo, and you're a jazz piano player. But you've got enough of an idea of how to capture this. You've got the song idea, but you can't execute. So you use that guitarist, you use this live drummer or the drum programmer from that can just really nail it. Mm-hmm. So it's really about knowing what you can do, improving, and always work on your stuff. You got to get better at everything, challenge yourself. But if you're going to pitch, you got to get the best ingredients in there possible. So learn, keep learning. You know.
Mm-hmm. What happens to, you mentioned a little bit how your song can be sliced and diced and remixed and everything like that, but what happens to your song if it's accepted into a music library for a show or anything like that?
If it goes through a music library, they might even ask that you submit some really key mixes. A full mix, a mix with the vocal down about 6 or 8 dB lower than you would normally have it for a nice upfront vocal. I really want to hear your story. When you've got a scene going on and there's a little bit of dialogue and they're Jack Bauer, so they're whispering like this, even though explosions are happening. But the music that's happening there, let's say he's in a bar when the explosion goes off and there's a song playing in the background, they want to hear pulse, they want to hear the style that makes sense for the bar that they're in. They want to hear the vocal, but not too much vocal. And if the vocal is at its normal register, or volume I should say, in the mix, it might be it's like somebody talking in your ear, like a backseat driver. So the library may ask for a mix where you have a slightly lowered vocal. The uber important mix, and it's not only just because it works well for working with dialogue and scenes and staying out of the way, it's just a track only. So yank out that vocal completely. You might do a mix with just the vocal part on the chorus and everything else gone, or you might just have a complete track only. That percolates really well. They could marry those two things, so you have your full mix here, and now you've got your track mix down here. A music editor drops them both in, and you got your full mix happening. All right, the vocal's getting in the way of things. So the music editor just immediately cuts down to this other stem of the backing track to get out of the way, and then as soon as you're back in the clear, you can get back to that full mix. So they may ask for that. That's not something you would typically submit when you pitch unless they ask for it. Mm-hmm. Within my course, I try to train people to build little instrumental sections that percolate, that are loopable, that gives the editor something to work with if they had to stretch a 2-bar thing into 8 measures. So you can do that. Yes, they will totally dissect your piece of music. They will make it sound like it's coming through a trashed out speaker in a retail store. You'll barely be able to hear the music, but that doesn't matter. It's on the cue sheet. You will get paid. And if that show goes into repeats, you'll be paid again. And if it goes into syndication, you'll be paid for many, many years. I'm still earning money from stuff that I did 15 years ago. It's still showing up on the BMI statement because the shows keep getting played. I don't care that you can barely hear it, and those darn actors are talking. So anyway, they'll do what they need to do to make the show successful, and that's really what I teach a lot about in this course, is to realize that you're not only a songwriter, but you're playing with other folks, and you're making somebody else's production, their vision, come to life. It's kind of the music supervisor's job to put those elements together, but they have to have something to work with. They can't have a song that keeps going listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. So it's got to work with picture.
So there's a lot of people out there trying to do this, and you were mentioning, having your music on the cue sheet. People ask, should they work for free since there's so many people out there? Or what kind of license fees are out there for TV right now?
Yes, things keep changing. There were some really great glory days where some phenomenal sums were going around. But what we're seeing now, because music can be produced so cheaply by anybody on their bedroom with a garage band and a decent mic, or maybe not such a decent mic. I've heard some great stuff right into a laptop. Because the market is very crowded, it has pushed down a certain sector. And so there are a lot of folks that are using their placement, getting the music placement, sort of like a calling card to get more people into their live shows, or to go to their website to do downloads, or whatever it is, sell merchandise at the live shows. There's other revenue streams that they are using, getting their music dropped into a project to help that go along. So to that end, what we've seen is that number shrinking for certain sectors. I did bring this up on the music supervision chat, which is it archived now? Can they?
It's archived.
Okay,
yep.
So you'll actually hear where I discuss it maybe in a little bit more detail. But MTV is doing blanket licensing with songwriters where, non-exclusively, they have the right to use those songs for no license fee, meaning worth the sum of $1 in promotional consideration. There's got to be something that changes hands here, that they can use that song in any of their shows. Sort of outside of really featured theatrical things, but any of those reality shows that they have and many other outlets that they have. But what they do for the songwriter is, there's no license fee, but you might get the screen crawl. On the website for that show, there'll be the listing of all the songs that were in it and links to that artist downloadable site. So for all that to work, you do need to be the administrator of that piece of music. You need to control master, publishing, and the composition to get into that deal. But if you get all the signatures in there and you can get it in there, you're in there for free, but you'll earn some amount of performing royalties and potentially attract more people to your live shows and get some downloads. Should you do it for free? That is a big question, and it's a personal thing that if it's your only way in, you do it, and you're gonna have to say the first one's for free if you really love the stuff. If you value my stuff, I got to put a value on it. You got to ask for money. I just helped a student the other day who's a pro, but he brokered a deal. They wanted $50, and he said $50 for the pilot. If the thing gets picked up, $500 for the pilot, which is for him was a reasonable deal. Moving forward, then we renegotiate again. So I don't know if my student has listened. Michael, if you're out there, bravo for pulling that off. He used all of the negotiating techniques we used in music supervision, so it really paid off for him. But the idea is that it's going to be different. You need to research, you need to talk to other people. What are the other deals that are out there, or who else has got songs placed in this project or other similar projects? Nose around as best as you can, and then be market rate. Don't ask for too much where they blow you off, because now maybe you've missed your opportunity. Always leave the door open to negotiation. And but you'll find that a lot of people at the beginning will work for free just to get in. But if you can go for market rate and set that precedent that I'm not just Joe Blow here, I'm real. That's why you ask for my music. So pay me. So give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. Brad mentioned the archive. We don't want you to go anywhere right now, but you'll see underneath the video, you should be able to see the archives of the old open houses, and you should see the one from, I think it was May 6th. So before I have Brad talk a little bit about something cool he's done with the forums, we've had a couple questions come in, but now would be a good time to continue typing some questions, and we'll try and get them to Brad after he talks a little bit about this cool thing on your screen, I think right now.
Yes.
Showing up.
This is something that I came up with while we were running music supervision online the first time. It's something I do in my brick and mortar teaching, where I will use my music supervision class, an music industry class that is acting as publishers, like third-party publishers, like song catalog folks, representing my songwriting class over at Northeastern, and the three of them negotiate deals. They pitch music. It all moves in real time. It's very pressurized. There's people involved. There's technology involved. And at any given moment, technology will break down, people will break down, but you move through it. It's like the best way to really get the feeling of what it's going to be like when you really are trying to do a pitch to somebody, dealing with rejection or dealing with requests to, can you adjust this? Can you make this work for me better? So what I've done is taken my music supervision class, and they have 3 weeks, but don't wait to the last minute, folks, 3 weeks to secure music, license it, do all the paperwork, fill out cue sheets, do master use and sync licenses that show that and show me all their budgeting as well. They've got a lot of paperwork, and they've got a lot of creative work to do to match clips and music. Part of what they're called upon to do is to reach out to the Berklee network, you folks, especially you songwriters. And this is not just open to my Songwriting for Film and TV course. It's open to everybody that can visit the forum, where you go to this forum post, which you can see, and you'll see a description of the scenes that they're working on. And if you have music that you think is going to work for those scenes, you simply just post a link and say, hey, come check out my stuff. I think I've got some things that are going to work for these scenes. I do ask that you be very, very good about please reading all the instructions if you move through it, and that you get all the metadata in there and title your songs clearly, so it makes it very easy. It's all about making it easy for other people to do their job, folks. I can't even begin to tell you how important it is to get your labeling together and take the work out of the folks that want to use your music. Make it easy for them to use your music. So what's going to happen is the music supervisors are going to be cherry picking through things that they think is going to work. They're going to run it past me, the producer of the project, and I'm going to yay or nay it, or say, can you do better? Can you go back to the songwriter? Can you ask him to tweak the mix or whatever? It's going to be totally the way the job really works, which is people moving through it in real time, and it moves quickly. So I'm very, very excited about what Berklee is doing and allowing us to use the forums to make this process work. And I can't say enough about it. It's not just an exercise, folks. You're meeting real people. Some of the music supervisor students that I have are music supervisors, are record label people. I mean, my last class, I had people working for Warner Brothers. They're hearing your music. You need to be heard. And you need to be told if you need to make adjustments to make it better, so you submit better things. Or that you have a specific knack and, hey, this is not working for this particular thing, but wow, I really liked what you did. These are real connections, folks. Yes, it's an online course, it's education, but the real world is knowing people, and you gotta know people, and this is a great start.
Cool. It's a really cool idea. Yeah. So we do have some questions from you folks right now. We've got time for probably 2 or 3 of them. We'll see. I've got a question from Jill. Do you know Pat Pattison? Do you know of him? Okay, of course.
The master. Talk about lyric machines.
Right.
There
the question is, in Pat Pattison's lyric writing courses, it's all about the images and pictures. But I'm guessing in this course, it's about the ability to soften the lyric impact. Does the course give tips on how to do that?
Yes. I don't go way into the lyric end of things, but I will say this. You can get away with murder with lyrics, because as far as marrying your music to storyline, it's more vibe than anything else. And if it's a vocal tune, that delivery of the vocal could be, you could be singing gibberish, but if that vocal feels right for that scene, if that delivery is the right emotion for it, it's going to work. So in a funny way, 2 competing storylines don't necessarily, you don't get balanced out. You don't normally get pushed that far forward. If it is the big placement, which we love, and those are the ones we recognize where everything stops, it's the montage, it's the slow-mo, it's the shots of everything the girls that the guys slept with over the last 4 episodes, and the person in the hospital and the miraculous recovery, and everything in between, and you see that big montage. There you can have a song, and there's a lyric that might be what we would call a little more on the nose. It's really telling the story of things lost and found, and or climbing out of this deep dark spot that we're in. So that does happen, but I will say this: the majority of it should just be really clear what it is. Just tell me what you are. So when I'm looking for a song, I hear the intro, I go, ooh, this feels right. I hear the first vocal, feels good. This is a good fit. This will play underneath dialogue, or this will be that huge dance scene where they walk into the dance club in New York and this thing is pumping. And there's some dance-related lyric cranking away. So I think, to address your question, having that storytelling thing, that's a real Nashville deal, and I love it if I'm just listening to the music alone, and believe me, please take me somewhere. I want to be taken somewhere, and at the end, leave me going, oh, leave me with something. Make me feel something, get me engaged, keep me interested, and at the end, leave me with something. Most of the uses of music, we hear the beginning, or if it's in progress, walking into the club, it's cranking. We often get an ending, which should be, hey, tell me a story, segue back to underscore or to commercial. So the lyric writing thing is not as a heavy of a focus in this course, and for those reasons. But obviously, there's phenomenal lyric writing courses here. So if you have those chops, that's great, but you might find you can tone them down a little bit and still be okay.
Okay. I've got a question from Hodgson that's similar to something that we were talking about before this. Do the same ideas apply to classical style composing as well? Hodgson is a composition major and would like to know if these are songs or more works.
Right. Where we focus are more songs, but I will say this. You just played a wedding ceremony, right?
It's true.
I'm going to ask you, well, I'm taking a shot in the dark here, but what was the repertoire? What did you have to play?
Some hymns in Jesu, Joy of Desiring.
That's all I needed to know, because it was perfect. A lot of people getting married, and if you work on The Sopranos, there are a lot of funerals too. And in those scenes, there's often light classical music, and we just do this stuff all the time. If you can write in that style, Hodgson, is that his name? Hodgson, yeah. If you can write in that style, and you can get a great performance. I mean, if you can do live string quartets or harp and flute, cello and flute, piano, smaller ensembles that might be off stage or not visual, you have a very good chance of getting those things placed. So writing in that style is awesome. It should have form with sections that work, but always think about dialogue. Think about the celebratory moment, and then think about getting the heck out of the way for a little bit. Something down low, simmering. Oh, we're talking, so great to see you. So having that skill set is awesome, and that is a genre that totally works. And the other thing is, it's just era so wide. Something that was written in the 1700s still works now. And in fact, in my songwriting class, my students, maybe they're tuned in now, put together some beautiful hymns. And they did it in 3 different styles, like a sort of a typical church thing, but also sort of a Celtic traditional approach, and also like a mountain folk banjo-y approach. Same song, treated 3 radically different ways. Bravo, songwriters.
I love
you
it.
know who I'm talking about.
Something that I've heard questions about, and there's several here right now, are about the music libraries or the song catalogs.
Yeah.
Are there any that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is what I would recommend is putting your music in libraries and song catalogs that really check your music out and set a bar. If you just end up on a digital shelf because they're hoping that somebody stops by because they've got a great search engine and somebody licenses your music and they use a shopping cart and check out, and maybe it makes it into something and makes them some money, but these people don't know your music at all. They're not as invested in you, and they're not going to push your stuff to certain entities that might make you more visible. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my top priority. I would go to those libraries that ask for you to submit things and for them to approve. That shows that they're actually careful about what they put up there. There's a reason about that too. If they're going to have any kind of a successful business, when I go to any of these libraries and I click on them, if I hear something crappy and then I hear something else crappy, dude, I'm not going back there.
Right.
And neither would a music supervisor. And those are the people that you need to blow away. And not that all the music supervisors are hunting all these places, but I will tell you, music supervisors do hook up with publishers that are dependable, that will put out the big APBs to find things that might need to be custom written or found from existing catalogs that writers have. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable putting out specific names, but there is a website, I believe I got it right, but it's musiclibraryreports.com.
That's correct. Yeah.
Musiclibraryreports.com. Go there, you'll hear other composers, songwriters, people that produce music. You'll see a whole laundry list of all these different catalogs, and you hear them talking about how they're doing and how they're dealt with. So I would feel a little bit, I don't want to point towards any direction.
No, definitely. Yeah.
And some of them are getting, to be honest with you, some of the smaller ones get consumed by the big ones. So they're reforming and they're divisions. But there are major label acts that are associated with these places. It's not a bunch of kids. There's really good stuff up there. You pay premium prices for those, and those might need to be negotiated separately. You can't do the little online checkout shopping cart.
Right. That's good. Yeah, I know we've covered that before, but it's it's important.
Yeah,
very important.
You got to get to work. You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. So thanks a lot again for being with us, answering all those great questions. Again, Brad Hatfield, ladies and gentlemen, author and professor of songwriting for film and TV.